We're human, we're not expected to be perfect. And there's a difference between falling and failing, We fall. It doesn't mean you failed. And I think that's it. That's a message that we need to give ourselves more grace. I just wish that we could try and learn to look for beauty more rather than operating from a place of fear. I just love people. I'm fascinated by stories and people's journeys and I do think there's music opens the heavens in a way, however you might want to look at it, however you want to call it, it definitely comes from another place.
Himmelwärts und erdverbunden. Der Podcast aus dem Bistum Trier.
Hey everyone, this is a long English version of SWR1 Begegnungen, a German radio program. My name is Christopher Hoffmann and I had the chance to talk to the incredible J.P. Cooper. We met in Cologne during his tour through Europe and talked about many of his songs, from Passport Home to Holy Water and Call My Name, about J.P.'s childhood, his inspirations, about his lyrics, his faith, his hope, about being a father, and about touring all over the world. So don't miss it. And here we go. So first, JP, let's start with the very beginning of your life. Over 40 years ago, your mother passed away. In the song Raised Under Grey Skies, which was also the name of your debut album, you described this time. It must have been a tough time for you.
So I was very young. I was almost one. So I didn't really understand at that point what was happening. I was a baby. But obviously that affected my family and my home situation massively. My older sisters, obviously, they were old enough to understand, and it affected them. Obviously, my dad, it took him years to kind of work through the grief. So we were kind of, I guess I looked at it as being born under a little bit of a cloud. But I was lucky, in the respect that my dad always kept he allowed us to have a very close relationship with her. So on her birthdays or on her anniversary, we'd always have like a little party at home, something small, and he would try and get us little gifts, even though, he had to stop working because he had 5 children to look after. So we never really had much money, but he would always make sure that there was something special on those days. We always felt very close to her, as if even though she wasn't there, she was still kind of working within our lives. So in a lot of ways, I learned to look at the world through a different lens as a result of this huge thing happening in my life early on. And there's a lot of things that I'm grateful for about that. I think always trying to look for the positives in things. There are so many questions in life that we will never be able to answer. But I think learning to be grateful for the lessons and for that depth of feeling in being human is something that I was raised with. And I think that's definitely helped when it comes to writing songs and connecting in music is because there's this other world that you can't see and you can't touch, but you can feel it. And music in a lot of ways exists on that same level. So I think I'm constantly trying to find a place within that and share that. And it's a beautiful thing.
You mention it in the lyrics of Raised Under Grey Skies, don't you?
Yeah, I hear the sound of your voice in music, so I speak with you every day. Yeah. It's really nice. And these words, they often, I sit down afterwards, I'm like, where did that come from? And I do think there's, music opens the heavens in a way, however you might want to look at it, however you want to call it, it definitely comes from another place. The older I get, the more I realize that it's such a blessing just to be able to share this and to have these experiences, especially live on the road, and seeing that energy in the room. It's really special.
That's what another song of you means to me. I love the one with Stormzy, Momma's Prayers. I feel connected with my grandma, who was and probably is praying a lot. So tell us more about this collaboration and the meaning of this song.
So Stormzy came into the studio with the title of the song, Mama's Prayer. So it actually came from him. His mom is always praying for him all the time, and he was saying, I believe that, you know, it's been those prayers that have saved me in so many situations. For me, it was a little different because, you know, my physical mum isn't around praying for me, but I do believe that there's guidance from above. But my dad, on the other hand, he writes his prayers every day. It's something that I do now. In the morning I write, and my dad does that, and he's got stacks and stacks and stacks of books dated with years and years and years of and they're always the same little notebooks. And, you know, that's his prayers, and this idea that the army is invisible. You know, we have this army of people, and I know there's a lot of people who pray for me, more than I probably know. And I do believe that there is an invisible army around us, helping us and guiding us. It comes back to that thing, you know, things that you can't see and you can't touch, but it's there.
Is it also about believing that your mom is in a better place?
The older I get, there is more that I realise that I don't know anything, you know, and I can have ideas of what I think things might be, but I think generally I know that in a lot of ways I've been protected. And if one day it's my time to go, even though people might see that as being a sad thing, or I can't comprehend what is beyond this life and any of that, and my little brain is too small for me to even try to begin. So I guess the main thing is just be useful while we're here and be grateful.
You have already mentioned your father, and the song Holy Water, you have dedicated it to him, to your father. I'm grateful today for my daddy who showed me the way. These are the very strong and honest lines, I think. In the beginning, you are talking about the two paths. I sometimes choose the one less heavenly.
Every day, you know, there's always them choices to make. But yeah, my dad has always been an amazing example, and my grandfather as well, actually. My dad's dad. I can remember. So after my mum died, I went and lived with my grandparents for a couple of years. Me and Francine, my closest sister, we stayed there for a few years. And my dad and my sisters would come at the weekends and see us. But my granddad, I can always remember, he'd be up before everybody else. And I would come down into the living room, and he would be knelt. He had a little table next to his chair with, you know, a crucifix and some pictures, and he would just be knelt in prayer. And he wouldn't acknowledge me when I came in the room. He would quietly finish his prayers and then go about his day. And it's these examples of practice that. They're not ostentatious, they're not these huge, big, I need everybody to see this kind of thing. They're, you know, they're simple, but it's the example. Rather than, you know, being told, oh, you need to do this and you need to do that. And that's something, you know, being a dad myself now, it's like, okay, I understand the responsibility of that now. And hopefully I can, you know, continue to grow in that role. But
it's good to hear that you had a dad and a grandpa like this. Now you yourself are a dad of 3 kids. What's important for you to give them on their way? What father would you like to be?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky, you know, between trying to strike a balance between, like, right now I'm away, you know, I'm away from home. And I think, you know, my dad was definitely sort of instilled this thing in us that even though your mum's not here, she's working in your life. And so I'm like, I have to have faith that there is other factors in play when it comes to my own children and that kind of stuff. There's only so much work the parents can do. But I think that finding that balance is something that I'm still really working on. But all I can hope to do is show up with love and be available and unwavering, really. I mean, there's so many times when I might have done something wrong, and I expected my dad to kind of act in a certain way, and he always surprised me with how he responded to that. And I think actually becoming a father has helped me understand maybe a bit more of God's love. Because if my kid, for a while I stopped asking for things, when I said my prayers, I'd just give thanks. I stopped asking for things. Who am I to ask for anything? And then I realised, like, if my boy asks for something, as long as it's not like bad for him, I'll do what I can to get that for him. So I was like, I need to start asking for more.
Nice.
Like, so. But it's one of those things. I think again, my dad's been a great example of a father's love, and hopefully I can be the same.
And he really went through difficult and dark times, but he had that strength, beginning new again and again. You also mentioned God's love. I think the message is also, if you ever fall, don't give up. You are loved. There will be a new chance. As a theologian, I say, there's fear and there's faith. And these are opposites. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. It's the idea that we're human. Like, we're so flawed. And there's a difference between falling and failing. We fall. It doesn't mean you failed. And I think that's it. That's a message that we need to give ourselves more grace. I think I often struggle with if I'm doing things, I don't like to do them by halves. So if I say, that's why I don't really scream from the rooftops. I mean, maybe that's something I need to work on, but about my faith, because sometimes I'm not walking that path. And I don't want to pretend that I am. I don't want to, for social reasons or any of that stuff. So, but also I'm like, sometimes if I am in a habit of doing things that I know that I shouldn't be doing, it's like I'm embarrassed to go back to my father and say, so very easily you can become distant. And that happens sometimes. And I think, I beat myself up so much when I do things. And I think that's like trying to remember, like, that father's love. But yeah, we're human, we're not expected to be perfect.
No.
It's not. And with my job as well, that's something that I've had to learn. I used to I'd be so concerned with delivering this perfect vocal every night, and but I put this pressure on myself, to kind of, and if there was a slight problem where my voice broke or something, I would be really stressed and I'd get really anxious about it. Say I was a little under the weather, I was a little sick, I was like, what if I'm going to struggle with this? And again, the older I get, the more I'm realizing that it's not my job to be perfect. It's my job to give and to explore that space and to bring it out to people and to have an experience with people. And I think, people don't really care as long as I'm not terrible, with people, they don't mind if maybe, there's a little bit of a song that isn't as perfect as the record. And yeah, that's something that in time, it's like, it's amazing. It's liberating to realize that it's not our jobs to be perfect. It's our jobs to keep trying and to not give up, because perfection is impossible. Yeah.
In one interview you said, singing is like giving to me. It is giving joy, giving hope, and giving light to others. And that's what I feel when you are singing. In Call My Name, for example, it motivates me to go on. And it is also a song dealing with loneliness. The vibes I feel in the song Call My Name are, don't give up, reach out for help, love your neighbor. Is this the message of Call My Name?
For sure. Yeah, I think there's definitely times when, I think nowadays, especially with social media and things like that, there's a lot of lonely people because we have such digital connection that, and a lot of the time it's easy to fake things, I guess, to fake happiness, to fake having a good time, and people only share the good bits, and I think we've created this culture of, well, we only share when things are good. We don't want to bring people down. People don't want to know about my problems, and I've been lucky enough to have people close to me that I can reach out to when I'm struggling, And there's a huge conversation around this at the minute. But I do think it's an important thing. It is not. When I say call my name, I can't be there for everybody. I have to have. But there's always someone. I'd like to think. And so I guess it's a celebration of that.
You also had these people in your childhood in that Manchester area who listened to you, an experience you had. But now on tour, it's maybe much more difficult.
Yeah, it's so important. This is it. Sometimes when especially if you're on like the west coast of America, like in the evening after you've finished in the studio or whatever, everyone's in bed asleep here. So those evenings, I don't like being out there at that time. It's just you kind of feel on your own. It's a strange place. So yeah, I've written a lot of songs from that space. And again, even loneliness has benefits. There's inspiration that comes from that. And I don't know where it came from, but I wrote a little quote on my wall when I was a teenager saying, "Make use of solitude, don't be used by it." Cool. And I quite like that. Even when it doesn't feel good at the time, there's always a reason or a purpose behind it. As long as it's not too much.
Let's turn to your incredible song, Passport Home. What is it about?
But that was quite a funny one because I lost my passport. I was in LA and I lost my passport, and I went to the writing session, and at the beginning of this studio session I was calling up the hotel, trying to ring all the different places, to the restaurant from the night before, to see if my passport was there. And I was supposed to be writing a song, so I started thinking about the idea of a passport and how certain people can be like passports to you. They're the gateway to breakthroughs. They're the gateway to, they open doors. They're the key. So I quite liked that as a concept, and we played with that, and we came up with Passport Home. And I really like that metaphor. That people are your passport to new places, not necessarily like physically in the world, but in your journey, so I really like that. Yeah.
What I thought first when I heard the title Passport Home, many people don't have a passport at all. And in times of growing xenophobia, many refugees, wars and growing hate speech, you are on tour all over the world, sharing music as an open-minded artist. Is it also a topic for you? What do you learn through traveling all over the world?
I think one thing that I learned, and this is another amazing thing about music, is that it's, even though I'm singing in English, it's so universal and it connects people, And it's funny, one of the guys the other day in the band was saying, what's interesting is that we have all of these people in one room, and I'm sure that there will be many things that we disagree on in the room. I can't sit down and say, well, I'm going to have the same worldview as every one of these hundreds of people in this room. But in music we have a connection, and and I think that it does the right music brings the best out of humanity, and I think wherever I go, I see these different cultures and just how much beauty there is in all of them. And even I'm sure within these countries where there's huge problems, and I think maybe I'm naive, but I do have faith in the good in humanity. And I don't know how you make everybody understand that. But I guess I'm more just a witness. I'm not that well versed in politics, or it's not really been my calling to kind of. I don't. And maybe that sounds ignorant. I care, and I am. I'm a spectator, but I don't have the answers.
Yeah, for sure. I don't.
Yeah,
don't have them too.
So I think, but I just wish that we could try and learn to look for beauty more, rather than operating from a place of fear or greed, which is often a big part of the case. But maybe that's easy for me to say when I have a roof over my head and I can feed my children, and I can never really understand on that level.
You had these times, and when your first son was born, and
Yeah.
you didn't sign up for.
No, but there was hope,
Yeah.
and I think this is a problem. There are some people who are just they don't know where the hope is coming from.
Yeah.
So, I'm very grateful in that respect. But I just love people.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by stories and people's journeys, and you know, and I see them in the crowd every night. I get a glimpse into like other people's stories, just a little bit, and that's so special, so special.
You once said, "I'm a lucky man. I create the soundtrack of people's lives and love
Yeah,
stories
you know,
sometimes." And that's cool.
If that's just such a privilege, you know. Again, I can't really take ownership of it, but it's nice to know that, you know, people have used this song for maybe their wedding, or, you know, when they proposed, or, you know, it's the big moments that are, or, you know, just music that's helped them get through the loss of somebody or a hard time. It's amazing to be a vessel, you know, to kind of, I feel privileged to be given that as a gift, you know. Yeah.
One more question, JP, about the gospel versions. I like them best. You also sang in a gospel community choir in Manchester.
Yeah, I mean, I always loved sort of black music, you know, and a lot of my friends were more into your kind of, you know, rock music with guitars and things like that. I love that as well. But I wanted to find a place where I could immerse myself in that a little bit more and learn a bit more. But because I was like working, I was playing in bands, a lot of the choirs were either like university or you need to be there this time, or it was church affiliated, and, you know, it was a lot more structured. And at that point in my life, I was like, I just want to go and sing when I'm not always going to be able to be there. And I found this this community choir based in Hume in Manchester, and I started showing up. You know, it was just a Tuesday night, you pay a few pounds for like the electricity or whatever, and everyone goes in and we sing together, and they teach us the songs, and you're either with the tenors or the, you know, you're in your section, so, you know, you're learning the harmonies, you're learning these arrangements, and for me, you know, as a community, that was a really supportive community, because it wasn't not everybody there was Christian. It was more of a community thing, but it was gospel music. We were singing gospel songs, and it was just a really, really special environment to be in. And Wayne Ellington, the guy who ran the choir, he's been, you know, a kind of mentor of mine since then. You know, we're very close friends, and we work very closely, and we got together and did a lot of these arrangements. And actually, for the next album, I actually went and recorded the Durban Gospel Choir on the album. So there's 6 songs on this new album that are, you know, they have those arrangements on them. So it's been such a part of me and my growth and my life, and I guess my sound, that I thought it's so important to finally put that on one of the official records, you know, because in the past we'd never really done the choir thing. It was always a different version.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
So now it's nice to get some of that into the records. But I just think choirs, you know, it's you're capturing a community in that sound, and this choir in the Durban Gospel Choir, when I went and worked with them, I think it's been kind of the same 30 people for like over 10 years now, and choirs are usually quite transient. People come in and out, and whereas these guys, they've been singing together for so long, and, you know, they've been through things together. Like a lot of these guys still, you know, they live in the townships, they're not in the land of opportunity, you know, but they have a brother and a sisterhood that is, you can hear it in their sound.
So there's really a huge depth in all of your songs. And as a theologian, I'm very interested when it comes to the gospel. So is there a special quote or a prayer which is giving you strength?
I think it's strange, because that's something that I'm trying to actively learn more. I think that's one of the things in like the Catholic Church that definitely, like, I don't feel like there was enough actual study of the Bible. You know, you go to other churches, like you'll have 10-year-old kids that can like reel off, you know, scripture, and so I think for me that's something that even now I'm like, I want to learn more about it. I want to I don't know whether there's definitely moments in time where I have verses in my head, or whether there's like this last couple of years, like especially on tour, and especially when I'm like, there's been occasions when I've been sick and I've been on the road, and I've prayed so many times, like the Serenity Prayer.
Yeah, like
You know, like just accept the things I cannot change, you know, and for years I've prayed it, and I feel like this year I've learned to accept it, because honestly I used to get so anxious and stressed out around tours, because what if this happens, what if that happens, and somehow it's just lifted. I don't know how, I don't know why. The first few shows we did on this tour, I was like, I'm still I have a cold now, but it's fine. But I was really like full of a cold.
Wow.
And I was like, listen, what will be. I'll go out, I will give. And the shows were incredible.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, we can get so caught up in fear, operating from that place of... but yeah, I still have a lot to learn. Yeah.
Thank you for your openness also,
of
and
course.
I'm
an open book.
Thank you so much, JP. Having this encounter, all the best.
Himmelwärts und erdverbunden. Überall, wo es Podcasts gibt.